And we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel for the latest post-game show here on WardyNYM, as we're the #1 Mets post-game show here on YouTube, covering every single game that transpires in the 162. And a happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there, to everyone that has mamas. Appreciate you all. Again, especially if you guys are chiming the show live or on replay, it's greatly appreciated on this holiday Sunday. But what's even more appreciated is the Mets having offense, having life. Finally, a breakout inning that we saw there in the 5th inning in Game 2 of the doubleheader. That would ultimately be the difference. The Mets finally snapped their 5 straight series loss skid and look for, at minimum, the series split that they currently will have, or a series victory should they win their final game tomorrow. So very happy. I know it's the Nationals, but look, the Mets needed runs, they needed production, and they finally had an inning where they looked like the Mets offense that we have loved over the past year when they have been right. Putting the ball in play constantly, getting a bloop, getting a double, getting all types of different contributions from this entire lineup and then some. That's exactly when the Mets got at a huge time. We're really not going to harp on Game 1 much today, guys. I'll break down shortly, but needless to say, the Mets didn't have offense in Game 1. They had it in Game 2. Max Scherzer was very solid in his start today, and hopefully he stretches out to possibly 6 to even 7 innings the next time he's out there. But a lot of positives to take away from tonight's game, and overall, this series thus far, winning 2 of your first 3. And for a Mets team that has been so horrendous against what's felt like bad teams over the past 3 weeks, they're finally putting their right foot forward and showing that this is a team that's capable of much more than we have seen over the past 3+ weeks. So again, appreciate everyone chiming in. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you're first chiming in live or on replay. Really does mean a lot. We're probably not doing callers today. We will certainly be doing them during the week, however. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. And again, appreciate you guys being in here. 5-Speed, great member. Dave Kaplowitz, my good friend, great member. Hey Jack, great member. All you guys live and on replay. Happy to have you guys all in here. As always, folks, as we're breaking down the latest Mets victory in what was a doubleheader where they split the doubleheader, but we're really going to harp on Game 2 here today, where they finally looked like this Mets team that we have been dying to see for the entirety of this Mets season thus far. Again, Mets dropped Game 1 by a final score of 3-2. That was pushed from yesterday, a 4-hour-long rain delay, just for them to say, hey, you know what, we're suspending the game. Terrible stuff by the MLB and the Nationals there, just for the Mets to still lose, which was even more frustrating. But thankfully, they made up for it, and then some, with a key Game 2 victory today, where you saw a lot of life, a lot of offense from the depth of this lineup that we've struggled to see, headlined by Mark Hanna, that I have a lot to say about. Starling Marte looking sharp with his at-bats once again. Just a full-round team effort in tonight's Game 2. Overall, Game 3 victory of this series, and now they look for the series victory tomorrow. So we're going to be breaking down innings 1 through 9 that transpired there in Game 2 of the doubleheader. But I do want to start off by again, thanking everyone so much for being in here. Really, really does mean a lot. DeMar DeRozan says Yankees better. I mean, it's fine if you're a Yankees fan and be confident, but I would recommend not saying stuff like that when the Yanks lost today. I mean, I don't know. I never understood thought process behind that. It's like bad juju for your club. It personally never makes sense to me, as I just kind of felt a spider web on me. That's terrifying. I saw a little jumping spider in my room actually earlier today. I got him. I got rid of him, but alas, he may still be around. So I will be on guard dealing with that while we're doing the live show. That's just fantastic. But again, happy to have you guys in here. Hope everyone has had a blessed and very happy Mother's Day this Sunday. I know I am. Today was not only awesome day, Mother's Day, in which I went out to brunch with my entire family, extended family, but it's also the 1-year anniversary for my brother and my sister-in-law's wedding. So it was like a perfect storm. We even had brunch today where they had their wedding reception take place a year ago. So it was a lot of fun. Just a really, really good day. Beautiful weather here in Pennsylvania where I reside. I don't know wherever you guys reside, New York, New Jersey, wherever you are around the planet. But I hope everyone really has had a nice day. And for the Mets to cap things off today with this type of victory definitely puts a smile on my face. It makes me feel good about this Mets team heading into tomorrow and hopefully the days going forward. But let's get into some key updates for you guys that aren't aware before we break down these ball games. One, it starts off with Cookie Carrasco. Carlos Carrasco pitched 4 innings of scoreless ball today, against that being in the, I forget who they were playing, but he was with the Binghamton Rebel Ponies again. Sorry about that, folks. He was the Binghamton Rebel Ponies again, and now it looks like Cookie Carrasco is likely going to be back in this Mets rotation soon. If you're wondering why exactly would that be, well, Joey Lucchesi was sent down today. It's crazy. This was one of those rare instances where a guy starts a game, it gets suspended a day because of bad weather, and he, of course, isn't going to be pitching again today, and the Mets actually sent Joey Fuego down with the assumption that Carlos Carrasco might be back in this rotation for the next term. That is what my takeaway was from Joey Fuego being sent down. David Pearson is pitching tomorrow against Patrick Corbin, which I'm not confident about at all. I know Patrick Corbin isn't good, but neither is David Pearson right now. So that's a complete coin flip pitching-wise with how that is going to go. But assuming that Peterson's going to be sent down after tomorrow's outing, regardless on if it's a win or a loss, I do feel that Carrasco could be making his return to the rotation, which would have the Mets as the following: in Justin Verlander 1, Max Scherzer 2, Kodai Senga 3, Tyler McGill 4, and Cookie Carrasco 5. I know that we haven't loved what we saw from Cookie earlier this year. That's important, but at the same time, Cookie also wasn't healthy to start the year, and the Mets' depth pitching-wise really hasn't been all that great. No one's been able to go past what feels like 4 innings on an average night-to-night basis, right? So we'll see what happens with the Cookie front. But other key updates as well is that while it was great to see the Mets offense do what they did in Game 2 today, that we'll be getting into, we'll get into the player of the game and all that stuff. However, the guys are continuing to rake, that being and Mark Vientos and Ronnie Mauricio. It feels like a matter of when versus if these guys are going to be inevitably called up to the Mets this year. Mark Vientos went 1 for 4 today with a home run and 2 RBIs. He's now batting .333 or so, just over 300 still on the season, maybe 320 with over 1,000 OPS. Ronnie Mauricio had himself 2 hits today, including a double and a run scored. Ronnie's exit velos on every single baseball that he rips is going at least 100 to 110 miles per hour. He's been killing it. Ronnie Mauricio also leads all of minor league baseball in hits currently, guys, with 55, if I'm not mistaken. So they are off to a tremendous start this year. And like I said, with the Mets having inconsistencies offensively, this was a great breakout, but it still shouldn't shock anyone if at least one of these kids is called up sometime over the next month, if not sooner, because they certainly deserve it with the way that they're playing. Mark Vientos has led all of International League in OPS. I think that changed out because Ronnie's doing really good. No less, these guys are the two-headed monster there in AAA. And just like how Beatty and Alvarez were off to really strong starts this year, especially Beatty, it feels like it's a matter of if versus when they're going to be called up. And of course, I have to let you guys know that today's show is brought to you by our good sponsors and friends at Sora MLB and Mantis Sleep, but more on them a little bit later in the show. Again, happy to have you guys all watching live or on replay. Really does mean a lot. But let's get into breaking down these ball games. And as I discussed, the key updates as well. Of course, Brooks Raley, after Game 1, was activated. Muckenhirn was his 27th man. And Dennis Santana, who did pitch a scoreless inning there in Game 1, was then sent back down. He was DFA'd, so he can be picked up by opposing team. If not, he will clear waivers and go back to Syracuse, like what has already transpired once this season. And there is only one takeaway I truly have from Game 1 in which the Mets lost 3-2, and that is, one, the offense wasn't there. They had hits. The Mets had at least 10 hits, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, the Mets had 11 hits today, a .322 expected batting average in Game 1 of the doubleheader today. However, they just couldn't drive in runs. I know, surprise, a Mets team that has been so anemic with driving in runs the past 3 weeks couldn't get it done, and that was ultimately their demise. Along with that was having Leon, who was just dealing with, elbow soreness and injury there recently, yesterday, as a matter of fact, pitching 2 innings of baseball. I didn't like that decision by Buck Showalter. He ended up giving the game-winning run, which was from C.J. Abrams, who had a great day against the Mets today. 3 RBIs total, 2 in Game 1 of the doubleheader and 1 in Game 2 to give the Nats the early lead off of Max Scherzer. But aside from that, there was only one true positive that I felt like I saw, aside from the Mets, again, getting hits but not driving them in Game 1 of this doubleheader, and that was Michael Perez, the Mets' backup catcher right now, who was called up, veteran left-handed hitting catcher who's normally low average, very low OPS, hasn't even had a good year right now in AAA to start the year at all, and yet he comes out today and has arguably the most impressive day at the plate in what was a lost effort by the Mets as they dropped the first game 3-2. Michael Perez went 4 for 4 today with a double, and the double came from yesterday that was carried over into today, today because the game was picked up there in the third inning. The Mets, of course, tied it with a sac fly from Brandon Nimmo, but again, they weren't able to do anything more offensively aside from that. They only had 2 RBI sac flies in game 1. That's all she wrote. But Michael Perez was a pleasant surprise out of nowhere. I mean, Gary Sanchez is driving in runs left and right now for the Mets in AAA since they picked him up, but Michael Perez is like, how you doing? If you're going to start me, I'm going to produce. So I don't think we're going to see an outing like that from Michael Perez again, but it was definitely a pleasant surprise to see him do what he did today in that game 1, all things considered. And another key note on the Gary Sanchez front, folks. Sanchez has the ability to opt out of his contract with the Mets on May 19th. So safe to say the Mets do not call up Gary Sanchez by May 19th. Very strong chance that he will opt to become a free agent again and be picked up elsewhere where he has a better chance of being on their active roster with the current team versus the minor leagues. Now, Michael Perez, I don't know if he just played himself in to staying with the Mets right now on the roster. He may have done just that. So if you fast forward throughout the remainder of the week and Perez is still on the roster, Sanchez's time in Queens could already be coming to an end before it even began. So just something to follow. Sanchez is looking great so far in AAA with Syracuse. Would be ideal to potentially give him some reps as the backup catcher, but if Perez is going to, perform when called upon every number of days because Alvarez is going to get the bulk of the load, then, it is what it is at that point. But just something to note for those that aren't aware on the Gary Sanchez front. But I do got to break down this Game 2 ball game now because this was a massive one, folks, and it was all revolved around that 5th inning. But it started there again with Max Scherzer on the bump today, trying to get himself in a groove, trying to have higher velo, and Max Scherzer was able to do just that, which is certainly exciting. Struggled with his command early on, but settled in and had himself overall a fine outing for a guy that was still limited on how many pitches he was throwing as he's still getting back from the scapula injury that he's dealing with and plenty of other things. He just hasn't had any consistency start the year between injuries, the neck spasms recently, and prior to that, of course, having the 10-day suspension, 10-game suspension. So it starts there in the first inning. Lindor with a double. The Mets don't score as we head to the bottom of the first with 1 out. Garcia with a single, and then a first clean inning. And guys, that was the first clean inning in which the Mets did not surrender a run in the first inning in 8 games. Their past 7 games, they've allowed at least 1 run in the first inning. They finally ended that today, and they also ended their series loss streak today. So a lot of positives in this Game 2 of the doubleheader. And then as we get to the second, Mark Canha with his first of 2 doubles on the day. Marky Cheerios, however you want to call him, can of corn. He looked phenomenal today. Mark Canha was locked in, and he had a lot of success against the same Nationals team in D.C. to begin last season, so it's nice to see him pick up where he left off facing these same Nats. With a double today, his first of 2, but the Mets wouldn't score. We're runners in scoring position early on. In the bottom of the second with 1 out, Dom Smith gets a walk. Abrams with an RBI double, which was frustrating because Starling Marte looked like he missed the ball. It was a deep fly out to right. He missed it to Sun. It was not in his favor, and Marte just missed the catch entirely. It ricochets off the wall, and that would ultimately drive in Dom all the way from first. So that gives the Nationals an early 1-0 lead there in the second. It wasn't doom and gloom yet, but it was certainly frustrating to see yet again another game where the Mets surrender the first run. But as we advance to the third inning, Thomas with a hit by pitch and a stolen base, Alou with a walk, and then Max goes down the tunnel after pitching a scoreless third there with Hefner. So we're a little worried, okay, is Max hurt again? What's going on? Thankfully, he wasn't. I don't know if he just had to use the bathroom, tune up something, whatever it was, because as we got to the fourth, Max Scherzer pitched his first 1-2-3 inning of the day. And in the fifth, this is where all the stars aligned for the Mets and their offense. They had 5 batters up in this inning, guys. Pardon me. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Mark Vientos when it is, of course, Mark Canha. Mark Canha had 2 at-bats in this inning. That is how good it was, guys. And it starts with Starling Marte with a bloop apple single to begin things against the youngster in Irvin for the Nationals. Then Canha with an RBI double down the left field line. And then Pham afterwards gets a walk. There's still no outs. Nimmo with an RBI single with 1 out, I believe, at that point. Drives in another run. All right, the Mets, are up they're up 2-1 at this point. Francisco Lindor with it was a swinging bunt, opposite field, infield dribbler drives in a run, and the Mets have themselves a 3-1 lead there in the fifth, and plenty more will come as Alonso would get hit by a pitch, the first pitch he sees. Beatty walks in a run. It's 4-1 Mets. Marte, or 5-1, whichever one it was. Marte with a 2-run bloop single, his second at-bat of the inning. Absolutely wild. 2 bloop hits in the inning, and this one would be 2 runs in his favor. The Mets tack on more runs there. Then it would go on to steal second base, and in doing so, a run would score from third because of a bad, it wasn't a good throw. It was low, and Garcia couldn't pick it. It got it right in between Garcia at second and Marte. That allows another run to score, and then Mark Canha puts the cherry on top again, who started the run scoring in this inning, ends it as well with an RBI single. Mark Canha had 2 RBIs and 2 at-bats there in that 5th inning. You love to see it for Mr. Clutch Canha, as I would love to call him, how he performed today. Just a phenomenal outing there in the 5th inning for the Mets. And I know it wasn't the prettiest, don't get me wrong, but to see the Mets finally go out there and get kind of that little bit of lady luck on their side, I don't know if it's because it's Mother's Day, but they had luck on their side a little bit, especially with that Lindor RBI infield single as well. The bloops, the blasts that they were getting, not home runs, but the doubles, those were all key. But more than anything, this Mets team, what made them so good when they were best last year, and yes, I know that they need to power along with it, but when they were best, they were able to constantly put the ball in play and drive runs in doing so. The Mets in the entire first half plus of the season last year, even after the first half for the opposing month afterwards, they were able to drive in runs on a night-to-night basis consistently by constantly putting the ball in play, and that's what they were able to do today. They took their hit by pitches, they took their walks, they took their infield singles, they took their blue hits, and they took their doubles. The Mets basically did everything there in that 5th inning but hit a home run, and that's exactly what you want to see from this offense, because that is what they are built on, that is what they are built around. So of course you want more power, because it feels like when the Mets have had power, they just haven't had the consistency where they can't score runs in scoring position. But this was a huge step in the right direction for this team. You have to feel that it's a big weight, a big monkey off their shoulders, and hopefully this is the start of many good things to come for this Mets team and this offense that desperately needed an inning like this. Even when they put up the billion runs because of the endless walks there in Oakland, that offensive performance has nothing on what we saw today. I don't care that's against the Nationals. The Mets need to pick me up. They need something to be happy, positive about, and not feel doom and gloom every single time they get out there when they have a deficit earlier in the ball game, and they finally were able to get that. So a lot of credit goes to this lineup. They were deep today, and they were often, and that would ultimately lead them to their victory. But before we wrap up discussing this ball game, which was a huge one in the Mets' favor, we advance further in this one. Max Scherzer, his final inning of the day is a 1-2-3 inning there in the 5th. And what was huge for Max Scherzer today, folks, as we look at the pitching stats overall that we see here, then we'll get on to the hitting, the player of the game, all that stuff. What was huge for Max Scherzer today, he was sitting 93, 94 in the fastball. He touched 96. That is the max that we have been needing. And he even said in his last start that he dialed things back there when he was in Detroit because of the fact that he's still dealing with that scapula injury and wants to be conservative. That is not a good recipe. That's a recipe for failure. If you're doing that and still pitching at 80%, 75%, whatever it is, and you don't have life on your fastball, Max finally had a life. Again, struggled with the command early on, but was able to get himself in a groove and retired the final 7 batters that he faced today. A lot of positives on that Scherzer front, who struck out 6 today. Got a lot of swing and misses. This was the Max that we have been really looking for all season long, all things considered. So you have to hope that we see more of this from Max. You have to hope that the next time that he's out there on the mound, that he can give the Mets at minimum 6 strong, solid innings, which we feel confident that we can get in our ace in the rotation, as is in Justin Verlander. Then the same applies with Kodai Senga, and so on and then forth. So a lot of positives from today. Max Scherzer, again, wasn't his best, wasn't his sharpest, but he stepped in the right direction. And as I've been saying before, with how bad this Mets team has been for the past 3 weeks, you need to take these small moral victories. They're important, because this is exactly what this team needs to finally get in a groove and hopefully get themselves on a roll here. And fingers crossed they can try to take game 4 of the series tomorrow, the series finale, with a David Pearson who has 0 confidence and a Patrick Corbin who is Patrick Corbin. So it might be a shootout tomorrow, but you just got to hope that the Mets have more bullets than what the Nationals do, right? But there is what you saw with the pitching. Brooks Raley, again, walked 3. It was his first outing back from injury. He didn't look sharp at all. Thankfully, he was able to get out of a bases-loaded inning there in the 6th unscathed, as the Mets took an 8-1 lead into then the 7th. In the 7th, Jet Brigham allowed 1 hit but struck out 2. Brigham, all things considered, has been very solid for the Mets in their pen this year, and that's a huge plus, because they've needed arms like no tomorrow, especially with all the injuries that they've been enduring. But Brigham had himself a scoreless 7th. Then in the 8th, Zach Muckenhern, who was brought up, of course, as the 27th man today for the doubleheader. Veteran southpaw, 28 years of age, and got himself in quite a bit of a jam there in the 8th inning. He allowed 1 run to score, had bases loaded, 2 outs, but was able to get out of it, thankfully. And then there in the 9th, in the non-safe situation, shut the door, and the Mets would win by a final score of 8-2 in Game 2. And I've now won 2 of 3 games in this series, and look for the series dub tomorrow. Offensively, Eduardo Escobar came in to pinch hit and got himself a hit there in the 9th, which was nice. But overall, offensively, this Mets team, they had it going today. Brandon Nimmo was 1 for 4 prior to, of course, being replaced by Escobar at the DH position. Tommy Pham started in center, and Pham was perfectly fine today too. But just look at the offense that the Mets were able to have. They had 11 hits in Game 1 and 10 hits in Game 2. And the biggest difference is the Mets have been hitting. That's the thing that we've noticed as well throughout this stretch. But their bigger issue has been driving in those runs, but that was not the issue today. Look at the offense across the board, 1 through 9 here. You're seeing a lot of multi-hits. You're seeing a lot of runs scored. That is what you need from this Mets team, especially against a lesser opponent in the Nationals. I know the Nationals are pesky, but it's the effing Nationals at the end of the day. Not to slight them, but let's be realistic here. The Mets have not taken advantage of their schedule at all so far this year when they've had a lighter schedule, like the past 2.5 weeks. But if they can hopefully secure a series victory tomorrow, then you have to be feeling at least a level of confidence heading into that Rays matchup, in which I'll be in attendance for Wednesday's game. Hope to see you guys there. Going to be a lot of fun. And then I will also be there on Saturday for when the Mets play the Guardians at home for their little homestand that they got going. So make sure to look out for your short schmuck boy, which is Wardy. I'll be roaming around. I'll be posting on the community tab here on YouTube. I'll be posting on Twitter, to do like a meetup a certain inning too, if any of you Mets fans want to talk shop for a little bit. It's going to be a lot of fun, but the Mets are finally getting things in their favor, and it couldn't come at a better time. If there was one team that just needed a break, needed some bloops and some blasts to finally go in their manner, it has finally happened. So a lot of positives there, and that's exactly why today's player of the game that I meant to get to earlier is, of course, in Clutch Canna, Marky Mark, a can of corn, potato, whatever you want to call him. Mark Canna, again, 3 for 4 today with 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, and he is your Wardy's player of the game. Mark, again, had a very, very solid at-bats today. Said, Mark is always making, micro adjustments in him. I love the Selly, too. That reminded me of, shout out to Grant at Jetty Mets mentioning slap ass from the Key and Peele skit years ago. If you know, you know, but it was funny. You see that little Canna slap on the Tookus? I'll take it. I like that Selly. It's pretty funny. But Mark, he's always noting how he's making these little adjustments, right? And he's a very analytical type hitter. He just always has been. That's part of his game. That's why for a very long time he's been a great contact hitter, a great OBP guy. And Mark came out today when speaking to Steve Gale's postgame today saying, he made an adjustment and hopefully he can ride it forever, however long it lasts. So if the Mets can start to get more production from Canna like they did last year, then this lineup gets so much cheaper. More than anything, also can be said with Starling Marte, who had himself a very strong day at the plate, all things considered. Yes, struggled with that ball in right field that I didn't love, but the bat-to-ball skills is what has been his biggest bugaboo so far this year, right? So if Marte can get back to being that solid contact hitter that's always on base and always being a run driven in with his strong speed, then this Mets team, just like that, is going to look more the team that we've seen last year when looking at the highs, with the potential upside further should you get consistent production for Brett Beatty, who has been on a little bit of a slide here when they've been on this away trip, but I do think he's going to snap out of it when the Mets get back home. Drove in a run today as well. Had himself, I want to say 1 or 2 hits in this. I think he had 2 hits in the series. I think he had 2 hits in Game 1 today, if I'm not mistaken. I'm actually going to double check that right now. Beatty did have 2 hits in Game 1 today, so not bad at all. And then Francisco Alvarez, who went 0 for today. There was a high strike call that I didn't like on him, but aside from that, Alvarez, again, has been looking really sharp. If he isn't hitting, he's been looking great with his defensive ability and throwing out runners. So just overall, love the kids and what they're providing and how deep this lineup can be when utilized properly. And now it's just imperative that, okay, if, say, the Mets continue to go through slumps, how their inconsistencies, which we all know is going to happen with this team, right? I'm not sold on them one bit yet when we're thinking long-term this year. However, Ronnie Mauricio, Mark Vientos, the Mets are able to turn to the youth movement inside this organization before potentially making a rash decision to seek something external. And that's huge. That is absolutely huge for this team. And it's just great to see the kids providing this type of consistent production this early in the year, which has surprised many, including myself. But speaking of veterans, on the other hand, that is Mark Canha, and that is him with a phenomenal day at the plate today. Much deserved Wardy's player of the game. You got to love it from that standpoint. But I did see a donation earlier. Andy, thank you so much for the donation. Thanks for doing such a great job, Wardy, and for always showing up. Here's some money for the bunnies. I appreciate that. Shout out to you. My bunnies are doing great today, Stormy and Gigi. Thank you guys for asking as well. You guys always do. I'll have to bring them in shows again this year. We will certainly do that, though, more throughout the season. But I appreciate the support, especially for the bunnies. Thank you so much for that donation. But, guys, I want to know, everybody, when you evaluate how the Mets performed today, on a scale of 1 through 5, 1 being not at all and 5 being absolutely, where do you stand in the sigh of relief and kind of the sense of confidence starting to build, seeing the Mets perform the way that we've seen them perform so well and so often over the past year plus? Let me know, how do you feel about after you saw that strong 5th inning and Max Scherzer giving the Mets, again, a competent outing today, which was also equally as needed? Through 1 out of 5, 1 being nothing's changed my mindset, of 5 being absolutely feels like there's a monkey off our back, feels like a breath of fresh air, step in the right direction, we're getting better. Like, let me know 1 through 5 how you guys are feeling on that front. Brennan says 6. He says through the scale. 0, you're playing trash teams. The reason why I believe it's higher than 0 is because the Mets have been playing like shit against trash teams. So it's imperative for them to actually have signs of life, regardless on the opponents that they're playing. And let's look at it this way. The Mets have done better against teams that are good this year than teams that are bad. What does that tell you? 1, it's early in the season. 2, this team is not in a flow yet at all. And 3, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? Those are all things to keep in mind when evaluating this team. Seen a lot of 2s, 3s, some 4s, some 5s. And I agree. For me, I would probably say I'm at a 3 right now. This was a nice step in the right direction. I'm not sold on them yet, obviously. I need to see this team actually get on a run. And, I'm not saying the Mets go out and win their next 10 games because there's no chance in hell that's going to happen. And if I'm proven wrong, then by God, am I going to be the first to say that I'm so happy to be proven wrong. But it's just, this is exactly what this Mets team need at the end of the day. They needed a break. They need some things to go in their favor. Also, as soon as I turned on the TV earlier today, too, I saw the Braves blow it in the bottom of the 9th, and Toronto were swept by the Toronto Blue Jays. So, the Mets are currently not that it matters to me, but for people that love to score standing watch this early in the year, the Mets are currently 4th. The Mets are 4th in division right now. They're 5.5 games back. They're in like a 3-way tie with the Phillies and the Marlins right now, with the only team below them, the Nationals, as Mets are 20-21 on the season, and the Braves are 25 wins. Again, the standings means very little to me right now, but I'm always going to be happy to see a Braves loss, consecutive losses, and the Mets win 2 of their past 3 versus the Braves losing 3 of their last 3. I'm not going to complain there, even if it's early in the year. So just throwing that out there, too, for everybody that is wondering on that front what's going on with other teams in baseball right now. But now we got to segue into, 2 of our fantastic sponsors on the channel that I tell you guys so much about, and that starts with my great friends at Sower MLB, as we mentioned earlier. The link is pinned in the live chat, guys, for you guys to click and sign up for free. Same thing as in the comments down below, and for people checking out in the description. And why is this MLB fantasy game so good, guys? Again, it's free. You don't have to spend a dime to sign up. You are your own MLB GM and manager. You sign up, you draft your team. Virtual cards no different than card collecting, or if you're playing on MLB The Show in that sense, right? You build your team, you enter weekly tournaments, and how your team performs in said tournaments weekly is directly in hand with how they perform in real life. So, I haven't done well in these tournaments this week because I haven't gotten enough production. Spencer Strider, of course, the one Brave who was performing well. Thankfully, Chris Bassett had a complete game shutout that game. But Shane McClanahan, who was doing well early in his start against the Yankees, gets blown up, gives up 4 over 4, and, it gives me a shit show. I go from 20 points down to 4 with him. So, didn't get nearly enough production that I wanted this week, unfortunately. But if you do well in these tournaments, you, of course, win awesome prizes, exclusive, MLB experiences to meet your favorite players You can win, of course, free upgraded cards for your teams better than what you previously had. You can win free merchandise for your favorite team, free tickets to your favorite team's ball games like the Mets or others, and also win hundreds of thousands of dollars in exclusive tournaments that you can enter. But why is this game so awesome? It's not only because of those reasons, but it's also because of the fact that I thoroughly enjoy and I get animated fast if I'm not performing well. Like, I am hooked on this thing. It is so much fun. And again, I highly implore you guys to sign up, of course, using my link in the description, pinned in the live chat right now if you're watching live, in the comments below for people on replay, because we are doing a big giveaway on the channel over the next week of a Brett Beatty or possibly Francisco Alvarez jersey giveaway. And the only way you can enter said giveaway is if you have already signed up using my unique link for free to SoRare MLB. So if you guys want in on that action, you have to sign up starting now. So again, that's going to be a giveaway we're doing very soon. And we're also going to be doing a Mets-centric league beginning this week too, where you guys will sign up using a separate link that'll be coming the next day or so. And in doing so, you will be joining basically a league that is hosted by me and any other follower of the channel. So basically be all Mets fans in this league, a very niche league where we'll have, upwards of just a couple hundred people. How many of you guys sign up? And then whoever wins first in those weekly tournaments that we do, you guys get a free MLB subscription for MLB TV. So you can't go wrong with that one. Again, love this game and everything it has to provide. I'm so grateful to have them as a partner on the channel, but make sure to check them out once more. SoRare MLB, links everywhere, as I mentioned already. Thank you so much in advance. A lot of giveaways, a lot of awesome stuff coming with it, so don't miss out. The only way you can enter is by using the unique link. So let's get in here. When do y'all play the Rays? Yeah, we play the Rays starting Tuesday. We're going to see, I believe we're going to be seeing Justin Verlander's home debut Tuesday, and then we're going to see Wednesday. I want to say Tyler McGill is slotted to pitch Wednesday. I could be wrong. I might be wrong, actually. I'm not sure who's pitching Wednesday, but I know for the Rays, they're pitching a bullpen game, I think, because it was initially supposed to be Drew Rasmussen, who's now in the 60-day IL with a flexor strain after pitching a gem against the Yankees in Game 1 of their series. So, unfortunate for the Rays, but hopefully fortunate for the Mets, even though bullpen game, who knows, right? One, the Rays are playing great baseball, things considered. They split a 4-game set with the Yanks, which was a high-flying series, a lot of high-scoring each game, as you see, 8-7 down below. Taylor Walls had a big game, and my buddy has Taylor Walls on his SoRare MLB team, so I'm sure he's very happy with Taylor Walls. He had a good series there for the Tampa Bay Rays, but more than anything, what we're seeing with Tampa right now, they always find ways to win. They do. Regardless on their pitching injuries, they're going to put the ball in play constantly. They're going to get great pitching from the relievers too, and the Mets are really going to have a tall task in front of them, but like I said, maybe this is a sign in the right direction, not only with how the Mets perform today, hopefully with another good performance tomorrow, but more than anything, it's odd to say, but I have a higher confidence level in the Mets against good teams than I do bad, because that's what we've seen thus far. And that was kind of a trend that we saw last year too. The Mets stepped up when they had higher competition last year, all things considered, until the end of the season against that being in the Atlanta Braves, right at the end. But the Mets overall last year did really, really good against teams above 500. Below 500, they did not do well against. And that's why the Mets, over their past 72 games right now, they're 500, including playoffs. So the Mets, you need to perform better against lesser opponents. We're aware of that. It's frustrating as all hell that they've been underwhelming, but at least that they have been stepping up when they faced harder schedules. So they have a big test coming, for the remainder of May and heading into June. June is a massive schedule that is not favorable at all, but if the Mets can come out of that bad boy above 500 by a number of games, and they will hopefully be in a good spot for the remainder of summer. So it's what we saw last year, right, with this Mets team. It's so odd how it feels like that they have a lack of interest and a lack of competitiveness when they face teams that they feel they know they should blow out but decide not to and lose in every facet imaginable. But then on the other hand, when they play good teams, like they beat the Dodgers 2-3, right? They took 2-3 from the Padres. The Braves, they lost the series, but that was a very close series that only like one run decided. And the first game was called after 4 innings after David Pearson gave up that one run to Acuna and then the bomb to Olsen. And then there was the rain delay that pushed the game. And because it was through 5 innings, I should say, they called it a game. So the Mets haven't looked bad at all against good teams this year. That's the funny thing. And that's why heading into this upcoming week, I do have a certain level of confidence that is a little surprising versus what you'd expect for a team that hasn't performed well in the past 3 weeks. But just something to watch. Again, if the Mets don't perform well, then it's indicative on them staying inconsistent. If they do, then it further proves what we have seen with our eyes over the past calendar year. It's as simple as that. Who's that flamethrower in AA? I forgot his name. Yeah, Mike Vasil has played really well. Really, really well. He had a great start just a couple days ago, as a matter of fact. And he's a guy who we will likely have on the channel an interview this year, so stay tuned for that one. But yeah, he's one of those high risers that could actually find himself cracking the bigs in the next year or so, kind of like how David Pearson came from AA all the way at bigs. Then another name is Dominic Hamill, but I have heard that as Dom, as great as he has looked, he, of course, did an interview on the channel with us last year for our podcast, myself, Joe Stroll, and Anthony Recker. One thing is certain, though, Dom and Vasil are leading the way, and the next man's up pitching-wise for this team. And wouldn't it be shocking if at least one of them is either brought up some point this year or next year for sure, as long as they continue their upward projection. And then you have younger guys in Calvin Ziegler, who's still, at a lower level. You have Blade Tidwell, who's looking very, very solid at Mets higher pick last year that they got a steal on. So, yeah, Mets pitching depth isn't deep, but the guys that they have are all certainly good. So there's definitely positives on that front too. But now let's talk before we get out of here, and that is my fantastic friends at Mantis Sleep that we have hype out every single show that we do here, because Mantis Sleep is the number one sleep mask out there on the market. When I tell you guys, I had a 6:30, 7 a.m. drive yesterday from PA to Brooklyn for a family event that was like 2.5 hours. And thankfully, my father was doing the drive for us, so I was able to just kick back, relax, and get some nice shut-eye for that drive. And in doing so, I wore my Sleep Mask Pro, which is what you see in top right. And I've been having their sleep mask as a partner for a good time now. We will continue to do so because their product is just absolutely phenomenal. I've never been a sleep mask advocate, but I wear it every single day, even when I take naps around the house. Like, I can be in a bright room, and it doesn't matter because I have my Sleep Mask Pro on. And you guys know by now, that's why you've clicked the link in the live chat, click the link in the comments below, or click the link in the description down below, and using my promo code WARDY for 10% off your purchase, as many of you guys have it right, because this sleep mask led by Mantis Sleep has been so good. They have a sound mask that you can use that has Bluetooth in it, which is so sick. And I've heard also raving reviews, not only about the one I use, but a steam mask. If you guys are, say, going to bed a little chilly night and want some steam around those eye sockets, you have a steam mask. The other way around, if it's a hot summer night, like it is, especially as it's coming here on the East Coast and, of course, out west, and you want a nice, cool sleep with your eyes, especially having a nice cooling around it, that's where the cool mask comes into play. If you want a weighted mask, you get that too. I mean, they have done phenomenal things for my sleep. I have felt refreshed on a day-to-day basis, all because of this Mantis mask, and I'm not just gassing it up because they're a partner. I truly stand by that. It has been nothing short of a privilege to have their product. I highly implore you guys, again, to make sure to check them out using my promo code WARDY for 10% off your purchase. Again, that is WARDY for 10% off your purchase at Mantis Sleep. Check them out in the live link here in the live chat, guys, for people who haven't already. It's a great way to support the channel because, again, these amazing sponsors is what keeps us going for us to be able to do this full-time without a problem. It's all thanks to your endless support and you guys buying the products, checking out things for free like Solar MLB, and so much more. So thank you guys all in advance for the endless support on that front. Sean, thank you so much for the donation as well. I'm scared of the Texas Rangers right now. They look scared. I'm not scared of the Texas Rangers at all, as a matter of fact, because they're all the way in the AL West, right? Got nothing to do with me, and they're looking scary without Jacob deGrom. Sounds like the Mets last year, right? Because Jake didn't come back until what? Jake wasn't back with the Mets last year until, was it July? It was July or August when Jake returned, right? But it was a while. Pete only has 3 doubles on the season. Is that alarming to you? No, considering he's been leading the way in home runs. Pete has struggled to put the ball in play consistently right now. That's what we noticed. Or this past 3-week stretch especially. He's pretty much been home run or nothing. But it's not alarming to me. Pete, once he gets on a roll, Pete will be able to hit more gap to gap and also getting those opposite field singles that we saw a lot of last year. So, I have a high confidence level in Pete. And Rose, the link to Mantis Sleep and Solar MLB is pinned in the live chat right now that you guys can see here at the top of the chat if you're watching live. And for people, if you're watching in the description down below the video too, you can click the link there as well. But if you just click the pinned comment I have in the live chat, that's where you can see the links. And thank you so much in advance, Rose, if you do end up getting anything or signing up to anything for that matter. But with that being said, guys, that is about going to wrap up the show. I want to thank you all so much for watching live or on replay. We'll be back at it tomorrow, most likely. Win or lose, we're likely going to go live, and then we'll have a new podcast out probably early Tuesday. Tomorrow night, we're probably not going live tomorrow night after postgame, but I am doing a phenomenal collab with someone in the sports space that is unique. It's different. People that are lovers of the sport are really, really going to appreciate the collab that we're doing. He's excited to come on the channel. And I'm just so pumped up. And even my brother is going to be a part of this too. So we'll probably be doing a non-live stream pre-recording later tomorrow night after I go live for the post-game show for what is going to be a sick interview about the Mets and about something else. And I'm really excited to get out for you guys. I'll likely come out sometime this week, so keep an eye on it. I'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, really, really, really exciting collab I'm doing tomorrow night that I'm excited to share with you all when the time is right to post it, especially hopefully during the time when the Mets performing well. I'm not going to drop it during a time where the Mets aren't doing well because it's relevant to the Mets, but it's also one of those things where I don't want people to ignore it just because they're not performing well, because it's the Mets and that's something else, and I'm just excited to share with you guys. So very, very excited for it. Stay tuned for it. You'll be seeing it at some point this week. But post-game show tomorrow night. So until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you for the support by smashing that like and subscribe button as you always do. And this is Wardy signing out. Happy Mother's Day to you all again. I'll see you guys real soon. Peace out, everybody. Thank you.